You guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay. Yeah, so you just be about that far away. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn.
Let's go.
Let's go. And Bruce McGowan.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. We are in the studio here with Steve Travers, who is a well-known author on sports. Steve, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Well, welcome. Thank you. I'm really proud and happy to be here.
Excellent. Okay, now, off air, we were talking about USC and John Wayne. Put those two together for us. What was going on with Patton and all that?
Well, it's the subject of my next book, which is called The Duke, the Longhorns, and Chairman Mao, the political, John Wayne's Political Odyssey. And the short story on that is that I've come across evidence that leads to a hypothesis, which I put together in the book, that very possibly a speech made by John Wayne to the 1966 USC football team the morning of their opener against Texas was channeled by an assistant coach named Marv Gu into a series of incendiary speeches that he made to the team over the next 3 years, and that it's highly possible, in fact, maybe even probable, that those speeches were heard by a film student named John Milius, who became very famous for writing the screenplay Dirty Harry, who then gave this information to his good friend Francis Ford Coppola, who at the time was writing the screenplay for Patton. That it becomes the famous speech at the beginning of Patton where George C. Scott says, "No bastard ever won a war by dying for his country."
That's pretty good.
Yeah, Steve
So
and
it's right here.
I was going to tell you a quick story. Steve and I used to sit in the press box at Pac Bell and do. Steve and I used to sit in the press box at Pac Bell and do impressions for movies, obscure movies, and people would look around and they'd crank their necks and say, "What the heck are those guys talking about?" I mean, we do things from movies from like 7 Days in May, starring Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas.
It's like my brother and I used to do Gilligan's Island episodes.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, you remember the one about them trying to get off the island? That was every episode.
By the way, hey, John Wayne, former USC Trojan football player.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, now, we talked ahead of time. I asked you if it would be okay to talk about the famous Pete Carroll situation that you had. You know, he just won the Super Bowl, so it's open season, right? Go ahead. Tell us what happened with this story.
Well, in 2008, I was contacted by Triumph Books. I've written about 6 or 7 books for Triumph, and they wanted me to do a book called What It Means to Be a Trojan, which was essentially to interview 40 or 50 or 55 former USC football players, going back to the 30s, all the way up to the present day, and fashion each one into a narrative chapter. And they said, well, but it's very important that you get Coach Carroll to write the foreword. And I knew Pete. I didn't know him real well. We both went to Redwood. Bruce here was there was there with Pete.
And this is 2008?
What's that?
This is 2008?
This is 2008. So he's at USC.
So it's 3 years after the USC Texas.
That's correct.
Mm.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. And we all know what happened there.
Well, we do know
Yeah.
I was at that game.
Remind the audience, they may have forgotten.
Well, that was when Vince Evans ran for 9 yards with 5 seconds
Vince
left.
Young.
Vince Young.
Vince Young. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Vince Evans, that goes back in time.
He was a USC quarterback in the 70s of the Raiders. Anyway, and beat USC and knocked them out of a 3rd straight national title, which no team has ever won in the Associated Press era. Anyway, so
How about the Trojans won that game? Am I wrong?
No. Texas beat them.
Texas beat them by a score of 41-38.
Yeah.
And that was Cal should have been in
Which
that.
national
that was a Rose
championship
Bowl.
game am I
previous.
thinking of then? The one that
You're thinking of when they beat Oklahoma the previous
when they beat
year.
Oklahoma
Yeah.
and then had the national championship taken away from them, right? About 6 months later, in wake of the Reggie Bush.
Well, no, it maybe 5 years later.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, it was the Associated Press never has taken any titles away, and that's basically the historical national title barometer. So, as far as I'm concerned, they haven't. As far as I'm concerned, my eyes saw them win it.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, they
Mine
won
did-
it.
mine did too.
You can't take it away. I mean, what are you going to
Yeah.
do? You know, say, hey, you can't have it anymore. It's
Yeah.
And then what do you do? Give it to the second place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, go ahead.
back to your question. So, make a long story short, I said, Pete, could you write the forward. He says, "Well, I'm not very good at writing. I have ADD, etc." Don't worry about it. I'll write it and I'll give it to you, and you can look it over. If you don't like it, make changes. He says, "That sounds good to me."
And
So anyway,
how much time did you give him?
well, this is June, and at some point around August, I literally walked the forward in and put it on his desk the way I'm putting my hand on your desk
Okay.
right now, Edward. In addition to that, left a copy with the sports information director, faxed a copy, emailed a copy,
Carrier
mailed a
pigeon,
copy.
Did everything.
You had all your bases
Followed
covered.
it up
Exactly,
with a
yeah.
fax, an
Right.
email, a phone.
Yeah.
You know the picture.
You
did
you
your
know,
due
you know where I'm going
diligence.
with
Yeah, there's
this.
nothing else you could have done.
And so the book is just ready to come out, and in fact, it's been printed. It's in print, and it's now we're talking about bindings and everything. Which is very expensive. I get a phone call from Pete Carroll's agent who says Pete's not very happy. Why? Well, you didn't show him your forward.
What was on his desk?
Game plans.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Now we know why he has ADD.
Well, anyway,
Wow.
and then I had some conversations with him. Let's just say that the Pete Carroll that everyone knows in publicly, that wasn't the guy who was talking to me on the phone. He said things that he had no business saying.
Wow.
And it was not pretty. And so we had to tear that book up at a great cost
Oh my
and
gosh.
reprint it. And he did do a forward. It was very perfunctory, about a paragraph. What I had written was beautiful. But anyway,
He didn't
that's
like
what
it, or what was he just
well,
he didn't get it? Or?
There were some things in there I think that were personal to
Oh.
him that had. Let's just say that circumstances had changed in his life. Let's just say
Oh.
that, and that he didn't want to have written, and he was adamant about it. And for a multimillionaire to basically cost me about $8,000 or $9,000, which that's good money to me.
Sure.
Anybody.
It didn't go over well with me, and so when Pete left USC, I didn't have that big a problem with it. And by the way, I broke the story that he was leaving SC on Greg Papa's show. In
Yeah, I
fact,
remember
Bruce
that, yeah.
called me up about that.
Yeah.
I had inside info on that.
I remember Greg was like, "What? Pete Carroll's leaving?"
And I was right on that
Yeah.
because that had not been announced.
He saw the writing on the wall and got the hell out of there.
He did.
Oh, yeah.
And I
Left
think
a
it's really
sinking
cool.
ship.
Now, Bruce, you also wrote a forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you didn't have the same issue Pete Carroll did.
No. I was happy to do it. I can't remember. I think it was a Giants book that you wrote.
Barry Bonds baseball.
Hey, Barry Bonds, yeah, because I like Vernon, we dealt a lot with Barry
Now,
Bonds.
the
over the
thing
years.
I love
Oh, yeah.
about this is we've got a conservative, we have a liberal, but everyone can agree on sports.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
It's a
right.
kumbaya.
Well, politics shouldn't divide people. Some of my best friends are right wingers. As a matter of fact, I would rather have a discussion with somebody who's politically opposite from me sometimes, because it's fun to find out what the other side is thinking.
Well, it's like marriage. If both spouses are the same, one's not needed, right?
That's a good way of putting it.
Okay, we're going to cut to our first commercial break. We're in the studio here with Steve Travers, who's a well-known author on sports. We'll definitely have some more fun stories to talk about. Okay, the theme for our trivia is NFL records. Figured, the Super Bowl just ended a couple weeks ago, and after this, we'll get back into baseball again, our favorite subject amongst all of us. Isn't baseball your spur? Your favorite?
Hey,
You love it all.
if you can throw it, roll it, hit it, dribble it, shoot it,
Bruce-
I'm all in.
No.
Bruce's not picky. He likes them all.
He likes them all, yeah. But three of us, though, are more baseball guys.
I watch curling if I'm at that.
I watched some of
Did you
that
see
yesterday.
that weird sport in the Olympics
is.
yesterday? What was that? These people with some sort of a puck, which they were almost blowing with their mouths. I never seen anything like
Yeah.
it. I have no idea what it was
I know the
called.
brooms with the curling, but I haven't seen that one.
No.
Okay,
Yeah, with a bunch of women that just scream hard, hard,
That's what
hard.
okay, here's our first commercial break. First trivia question: Who was the first running back? This is an easy one. Who was the first running back to rush for 2,100 yards in the season? Okay.
Okay.
The first three the first three emails with the correct answer are going to win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question: Who was the first running back to rush for 2,100 yards in a season? Don't touch that dial. Sports Econ 101.
Professional running back.
Don't touch that dial.
Okay.
Sports Econ 101 will be right back.
Is it OJ?
No, Eric Dickerson.
Oh, Eric
Eric
Dickerson,
Dickerson.
yeah.
He had
OJ,
16 games to do
that's
it.
right. Now OJ ran over.
OJ
2,000.
ran for over
14.
2,000.
That was 14 games.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
14 games.
I figured to start off with an easy
Another
one,
USC
you know.
guy.
I like to
There you
challenge these guys a little bit. Just a little bit, not too much.
Think about OJ. He was such a charming fellow too. If you ever talked to OJ, nicest
Oh,
guy you ever want to meet.
I
I
partied
was at
with
OJ's last game for NBC.
Is that right?
That was the Chiefs, Bills, AFC champion. Montana's last game.
Oh, that's
I
right.
Yeah,
I was
partied
there.
with OJ, his wife Nicole, and Marcus Allen.
Wow.
All at the same time.
Oh my God, what a trio.
After a USC game. Down.
I wonder if Marcus was doing anything with Nicole.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Marcus was doing the things with
Marcus had everybody.
And did
That's why Al
Nicole
Davis
have
didn't like
everyone, you know?
Al Davis was, you know, it's a funny thing about Al Davis, for all the talk about how he embraced these rough and tough characters that you know, were on the wrong side of the law, he was kind of a prude. He really was. When he got rid of Tom Cable, he said one of the reasons I didn't like him was he was bringing his little friends on the plane with him.
Oh yeah,
Remember that?
yeah.
Yeah, but that was a big rift with him and Marcus Allen. Marcus was going out with some gal who was the daughter of a friend of his, and he thought that was wrong.
Oh,
That was
I
that
didn't
was the
know.
root of his.
That was the root of it.
That
Yeah.
I didn't
Are
know.
you really?
That's what I've heard. Again, I'm hearing that from some pretty reliable sources in the Raiders organization who would know.
I'm not
Wow.
surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Al was a little, you know, he's a little bit of a prude. He
He was
was.
my first running back hero. Then along comes
Wow.
Barry Sanders.
I
and
can
it's
tell
like
you.
it's hard to push OJ aside, but boy,
I
You're
wore
sure.
when I was a kid. I wore 32 because of OJ.
Really?
Simpson.
Yeah.
I was always a Joe Perry was my guy. Now, you know, I went to Joe Perry's funeral, which was really sweet. Bob St. Clair.
Joe the Jet Perry,
Joe
man.
the Jet Perry.
Yeah,
Hall of
part
Famer.
of the $1 million
49ers.
backfield.
49.
49ers.
Yeah, he
Oh,
and
okay.
Hugh McElhenney and White.
Oh, okay.
What
Oh,
they
yeah,
call him,
okay.
the $1 million backfield with John Henry Johnson.
Well, that's going back to the
Speaking of
50s.
old,
Yeah,
speaking of the 50s, did you see the USF football documentary?
I heard about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that was supposed to be
That was
very good.
real. That was really well produced.
Yeah. ESPN.
Steve,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see here. Okay, so when we come back, answer the trivia question. And any specific fun stories you want to share with us?
You lead and we'll go.
You're driving.
I'm driving the bus.
Hey.
Driving the bus. Here.
He's giving us a ticket for the.
No, he's yeah, here. Just
Oh, he has to circulate around.
Yeah. Just,
He's got to make his rounds.
Yeah. All right.
It's good. Do you have any specific baseball?
What is your sport, Steve? What's your? If you had to watch one.
Baseball.
Okay,
You
all right.
play
got it.
baseball
Yeah,
professionally.
we'll talk about how you played.
Yeah.
I'm about to go to
Talk
spring
about
training.
Redwood. Yeah, talk about
That's right.
I leave a week from today.
How long are you down there?
5 days.
Oh, nice.
See, I'm going down
Leave
there.
Tuesday, come back Sunday.
I go down on the 28th, and Max Venable is going to be there, so because he's going to be watching Will, and I'm going to go to that game. So it'll be kind of fun. I'll get together with him and Molly.
Yeah, but the difference between your spring training trip and mine,
Oh yeah, your work.
I'm working round the clock.
Yeah, not me, baby.
You're sitting on your ass for having a drink watching these baseball
Hey, how come
games.
you go down so early, Bert?
They
Because they don't start playing until like the 12th or something.
full team reports on the 18th.
Okay.
First full squad workouts the 19th. So they send me down there because that's when the A's and Giants full squads will be there.
Oh,
And you
okay.
they get more bang for their buck by having us there because we're just trying to generate content.
Yeah, and the guys are probably a lot more accessible too.
I think.
Yeah.
What I'll try to do is I'll try to get Vida Blue on then early March, because he did just give him a couple of days notice, and that's beginning of spring training would be good.
That is
Okay.
great.
All right. Yeah, he seems like a very nice guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn
Sup, America?
and Bruce McGowan.
I don't know what to say.
After that lead in.
That's
Okay,
right.
when we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question. Again, the theme is NFL records. Who was the first running back to rush for 2,100 yards in a season?
Formerly with the Pony Express at SMU, Eric Dickerson.
And a former Raider for only 1 year, I think, but he did play with the Raiders.
Mostly for the
Mostly for the Rams.
Mostly for the Rams.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're in the studio here with Steve Travers, who is a well-known author on sports and actually other topics, but sports show right now, we're talking sports. Now, Steve, you actually were a pitcher, I understand, and what level did you pitch at?
Class A ball in the St. Louis Cardinals and Oakland A's organization.
Okay, but tell us what happened, because I understand you there's a story about how you got injured.
Well, yeah, I got injured with the Cardinals in '81, but we were talking about spring training. Leads me to an interesting story with some Marin County connection. In '82, I was in spring training with the Oakland A's. And as a pitcher, you pitch every 5 days. You know when you're going to pitch. You come to this minor league complex and you look on this piece of paper. You see your name. You're going to be pitching at some location in the Phoenix area. Couldn't find my name, and I go, I'll look at the Oakland roster for the big league exhibition game against the Giants. But, my name isn't going to be there. But for some reason, it was. I was scheduled to pitch, so I pitched innings 3 through 4 for the big league A's against the Giants, and I had Ricky Henderson in left field. I had Joe Rudy. I think he was the DH. Oh, wow. Shooty Babbitt was my shortstop. Billy Martin was the manager.
Oh yeah.
I pitched against. It was before Clark. Who was that? You would know, Bruce. The guy Rob Deere, who I struck out twice.
Oh yeah.
And where was this? Was it Scottsdale?
This
was
it
Phoenix?
No, Phoenix Municipal.
Phoenix Muni.
Joe Morgan. I mean, these are Hall of Famers,
Sure.
and I pitched in this game. And the game was announced by Bill King, and people back here in Marin were listening to it and told me later. And King and they had no info on me. Yeah. King is such a professional. I don't know whether he just knew me from having, because I played at Redwood High and he knew my name, but he goes, here comes Steve Travers, he's a lanky right-hander out of Redwood High, pitching in the glory days for Alendris. And he knew things about me. I don't know whether he...
That's Bill.
I mean,
that's Bill, man. He does his homework, man.
He did his homework. It was quite amazing.
So was it just that they wanted to just check you out, see how well
Actually, I think there was an area scout, and there were a couple of brass, and they were making a decision about me as training was going to go, where they were going to send me, and let's take a look. Everyone was coordinated in one place.
Did you have any kind of interchange with Billy Martin?
No, Billy Martin was hungover. It was a Saturday, and he and Art Fowler showed up in the second inning and never said a word to me, nor to anybody else.
They were probably fighting off a hangover.
There were actually some other strange events that day, which I can't even go into. It was one of the craziest days, but anyway, I pitched 3 innings, 9 up, 9 down with 7 strikeouts.
Wow!
And here we are years later. This is the last year of Phoenix Muni.
Well, it was. I'd say it was a highlight of my baseball playing career.
Cool.
But with performance like that, did they pass you over?
Oh no! Then they sent me to Modesto, the California League, and you can look it up. The 1982 Modesto A's might be the greatest minor league team. I think their record was 140.
Wow.
I mean, you can look it up. It was an impressive team. So I got almost no innings there. Then they sent me to. Then I went up to Medford, and then it was Idaho Falls, and then
that's like the 54 Cleveland Indians.
And then Grady Fuson, the guy who swears out Billy Beane in Moneyball, released me from the A's, and I went back to school at USC, and the rest was history.
But you got injured because you didn't have time to warm up.
Right? I did not have time to warm up, and Max Patkin, the baseball clown, was clowning me and not giving me an opportunity to get warm. And I went out there without any warm-up against Kevin Mitchell. And Mitchell hit a screaming line drive that you could hang your clothes on. And he banged off the right center field wall. And from there, and I think Billy Beane might have been on that team. This is the Kingsport Mets of the early 80s. And it was all the guys who later made up the 86 world champion Mets. A lot of talent. And anyway, my arm was killing me, and I did manage to pitch the next year. I came back here to Marin County and worked my tail off. And managed to get one more year, but it was never the same.
Lesson to the youngsters out there: warm up.
Yeah, I was always thinking. Whenever I think of Steve, I was thinking of Stephen Weaver, right, Steve?
Yes.
Yeah,
coach at Redwood.
The former coach at Redwood, and Stephen pitched 1 inning in the major leagues with Milwaukee and blew his arm out in that game and never pitched again. And I mean, he's been knocking around baseball forever. But I always think of Steve when I think of him. The arm is such a delicate thing. And in those days, they didn't have all those reconstructive surgeries available. So if you blew your arm out, that was it.
Well, I had a friend who, he could throw in the high 80s when he was in high school. And the thing is, they just work you too hard. And you just can't be working that hard at 17, 18.
You know what I don't understand, though? So many guys back in the day, and I say back in the day, back in the 50s and the 60s, didn't blow their arms out. I'm wondering, they threw a lot more innings. I'm wondering if they just fought through the pain, or maybe people didn't know what was going on, or maybe they didn't throw as many breaking balls. What do you think about that, Steve? Why are arms so much more delicate today, and guys are throwing fewer innings? It's just one of the conundrums I've never been able to figure out in baseball.
Well, I know it's not about really pitching through the pain. Pain is one thing, but what I had was injury. And
Yeah.
there was no pitching through it.
Yeah.
Pain, being tired.
Yeah, you can be sore.
You can be sore. I just pitched too much. I pitched all through high school. I would start and relieve the next day, and I always wanted the ball, and I always told my coach, I'm ready. And
Sure.
And
And the thing is, if you're really good, the coaches, there's a little bit of selfishness on their part too. They want to win a game.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting story about Steve. He pitched on the national championship Redwood High baseball team in 1979, was it?
77.
77,
Yeah.
with Al Endress, the coach, and you guys beat a team.
Buddy was on that team, right?
Buddy Bianco,
Buddy Bianco,
yeah. But you beat a team from, I think it was, or you played a team from China, I believe.
Taiwan.
It was? Taiwan, that's right. There was a nationally, worldwide, one of the top teams in the world, and they packed that little ballpark.
I think all those guys were 22 years old.
Well, Steve, before we move on to other things, you have a new book coming out, and go ahead and let people know how they can get a hold of it.
Well, that's the Duke, the Longhorns, and Chairman Mao, John Wayne's Political Odyssey, and it's going to be available on April 7th, and you can look at it at Amazon.com, and also go to my website at redroom.com.
Okay, so let's move on here. Who's been watching the 2014 Winter Olympics?
A little bit.
When I have to.
Yeah. I like to watch the ski jumping and the hockey. Those are the fun.
Yeah, those are the fun ones.
Yeah.
It's funny though. I was just thinking. I like what Obama had to say though, where he says the USA doesn't need to spend $50 billion to host the Olympics. We are exceptionally good at creating venues and moving people. Because have you seen some of those pictures in Sochi?
Oh yeah, I've seen them.
Aren't you glad, Vernon, that you didn't get sent to Sochi?
Oh my God, I am so glad. I mean,
That place.
I feel so bad for my brothers and sisters that are over there in the industry.
Yeah.
Having to deal with things that we just. I'll say it. Okay, I'm an ugly American. Things that we just take for granted.
The whole thing about the
Over
toilet.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
You hear about this, Steve?
Yeah.
But doing some deeper digging, that is affecting the journalists that are living in one isolated area
Oh, is that right?
of the Olympic Village. There's another whole faction of journalists who are not having that problem in another area, another residential area. So
I feel
it's,
sorry for the Olympians. I mean, it's like if I had to play in the Olympics, it's like, why would it have
no,
to be
no,
that
the
year,
The Olympians are getting the best of the best, and we do not feel bad for them.
Oh,
I mean, they're
okay.
getting that is their number one priority.
Yeah, but
I mean,
look
they're getting,
what's going on with this half pipe, with the snow.
I heard about that.
They're saying it's crappy, and guys, I don't know if they're getting hurt or. I don't know, it's just a little scary.
Sochi just doesn't strike me as a very romantic place to hold the Winter Games.
it's supposed to be a resort town, but they just didn't have very much. That's where the $50 billion comes from, because they had to start everything from scratch, from my understanding.
And now it's 60 degrees, I think.
That's great.
I got everything backwards there. And what about?
But how many years ago did they award Sochi? What, 10 years ago, maybe?
It was about 10 years
Something
ago,
like that?
Yeah, they take a long time.
Vladimir Putin did a lot of pushing for that, I guess. I'm
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now skier Antonio Pardo of Venezuela is its lone participant. Now, this reminds me. You guys remember the show The Odd Couple?
Yeah.
Okay, Felix, Jack Klugman, right? So there's this one episode where Oscar is dating this princess of some country no one's ever heard of, and she's trying to impress him by saying, well, we actually had someone in the Olympics. He says, really? What sport? And she said, all of them. Well, how did he do? Because he died. I thought that was funny. Okay, so let's move on here to our next commercial break. Again, the theme is NFL records. I think the questions are going to get a little harder.
All right.
Which kicker was the first to kick 40 field goals in a season?
Good one.
The first 3 emails with the correct answer. I see all the smoke coming from the eyes going back and forth. No looking at your iPads yet. Okay, the first 3 emails with the correct answer are going to win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email Edward at SportsEcon101 the answer to this question. Which kicker was the first to kick 40 field goals in a season? And since I see some questions on your guys' head, It happened sometime in between after the year 2000. Okay, so you
Oh, after 2000.
You don't have to go back that far.
Okay.
Figured to make it a little easier for you.
Gordian.
All right. Again, which kicker was the first to kick 40 field goals in a season? Email Edward at sportsecon101 and don't touch that dial because we will be right back.
The only guy I can think of is Adam Vinatieri, but I don't think he had to kick that many.
No, I was thinking somebody. I was thinking Morton Anderson.
Morton Anderson, yeah, but I was thinking Morton Anderson more in the 90s and 80s, but he was around still in 2000. Is he in the Hall of Fame yet? Morton Anderson?
No, because the only kicker is Ray Guy.
Ray Guy.
No, no. They have field goal kickers. They just don't have hunters.
There's a field goal kicker
I
in the
was
Hall
going
of
to say
Fame.
Jan Stenerud,
Yeah,
but
that's who I was
I think
thinking.
you got to go 16-game seasons.
Yeah. Is Jan Stenerud in this?
That's the only problem between baseball and, well, of course, baseball.
You know,
F-154, but it's hard to. The statistics are difficult to.
That's a good point.
Yeah, RBIs, home
Compare.
runs.
You know, the main thing I think about Jan Stenerud is how the Miami Dolphins beat Kansas City.
That's right. He missed a 37-yarder.
And they asked both him and Garrow.
Can you look that up?
Yeah.
I want to know. Are there any field goal kickers?
Okay.
I thought maybe Morton
Oh,
Anderson.
Stenerud's definitely the Hall of
Yeah, I
Fame.
think Stenerud too.
But it's interesting. They asked both of them. You know, like Stenerud, why did you miss that field goal? And he goes, you know what? Internally I just knew I was going to miss it.
Wow.
And Garrow, you're praying him. He says, internally I just knew I was going to make it.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
So
You create your own
I
I
reality.
remember that game. Like it was yesterday.
Field goal
Yeah.
kickers.
That was
Hall
on
of Fame
Christmas
field
Day.
goal
Christmas
kickers.
Day.
Yeah. First overtime game in the playoffs. Well, actually, they had one before, but it wasn't. It was a championship game. Remember, the first football game I ever watched on TV was Baltimore, New York, 1958 NFL championship game. Went to overtime. I'll never forget watching it. My dad kept saying to me, "You're going to remember this game."
Says Hall of Famers Jan Stenerud.
Here comes Alan Amici.
Alan Amici, that's right. He scored the winning touchdown.
The horse.
The horse.
Heisman Trophy winner out of Wisconsin.
Russell Wilson's alma mater.
Yeah, what else is in there?
So is Morton Anderson there?
Jan Stenerud. Okay, wait a minute. Well,
probably a kicker for some. I'm going to say 40 field goals would be probably a team that hits that many field goals. Probably would be a team that always gets pushed back and doesn't have that great an offense. So I'm trying to think.
Well,
They
George
can't get
Blanda,
sevens in the
George
red
Blanda,
zone.
if you want to count him as a field goal kicker.
Yeah, he was a quarterback
Great
too.
quarterback.
Yeah.
Really,
What a character he was. Oh my God.
well, it's funny. Okay.
you ever read Wells Twombly's book?
Oh, I have that
Football
book.
Hall of
I have
Fame,
that book. It's a great
Mosley's
book.
record
I love
shoe.
Wells Twombly.
Yeah, I used that
Sebastian
extensively. I
Jackson
quoted
shoe.
from that extent. He was a
We
great
have to
writer.
Oh, he
we have to
was.
get
Google it?
So he
Well, I
was, he had
Googled
terrible
Hall of
drinking
Fame
problem.
kicker.
He died of
Field goal
age
kicker.
41 of cirrhosis of the liver. Just loved to drink. He wasn't an unhappy guy. He just loved to drink. And he drank. He'd sometimes come in. Yeah, it was too bad. Well, those days writers were more into drinking than smoking.
He's the only football. Okay, Jan Stenerud is the only player in football
They'll-
Hall of Fame who was only a place kicker.
Oh, interesting.
There will be, I would say,
Okay.
4 or 5 in the current crop.
Yeah.
Okay, here are other ones.
Vinatieri, don't you think?
Yeah, I
he'll
would
get
think.
in?
Yeah,
Dawson,
Vinatieri should be.
Yeah,
don't you think those guys are Hall of Famers?
Yeah, some
you
of
guys
these
know
guys.
more
Okay,
about
Yeah,
it.
Jan Stenerud, the only one. Here it is.
Yeah, Paul Hornung.
Paul Hornung.
Yeah,
Wow.
Bobby
But he was-
Lane.
Bobby Lane, but they're all.
Yeah, Tim Ross. I mean, if you want to call Tim Rossovich a field goal kicker.
And I've heard some Wells. He's from USC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morton Anderson will be the next.
Yeah,
He'll be the next
he
one
should
in.
be. He should be.
Yeah,
From
Gary
Denver,
Premium,
Morton Anderson.
What's that?
The Gary Premium, I guess they just don't.
Yeah,
He's just
I
known
mean,
for
Gary
attempting that.
Premium's not in the Hall of Fame.
No,
Well, he didn't have a long
He
career.
didn't have.
Yeah.
He only played for about 10 years.
Well, he's so
And he's
well.
he's famous for not kicking. He's
Yeah.
famous for trying to throw that
Yeah.
pass
Yeah, in the Super
in
Bowl.
the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He
That
gave
Mike
him
Bass went up and grabbed and ran for a touchdown.
That was
Like
only
Vallejo,
four, I think, wasn't
like
it?
that.
Is he really?
You know, he started his career with the Detroit Lions, and somebody on the line, Wayne Walker tells the story. He says the first time that asshole showed up, because he hated kickers, says he tells the coach out loud in front of everybody, "I'm going to kick a touchdown. I'm going to kick a touchdown."
Oh, jeez.
And Walker said that just everybody hated him.
Was Walker one of the paper lions of Plimpton?
Yes, he was.
I bet he must have really
Alan
enjoyed.
Alda played
Yeah.
George Plimpton in that. I
Plimpton.
remember that.
Yeah, he
George
played
Plimpton.
himself. He actually played himself in the movie, and Alex Karras played himself in the movie. And
Alex
Mike
Karras,
Yeah,
Lucci.
they all did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The coach, I think Schmidt.
Yeah, Schmidt played
Yeah.
himself in the movie.
That's
It's actually
kind
pretty
of
well done.
Yeah, it was a good
was.
movie.
fun. Okay, you guys ready?
Vince Lombardi had a little role in that too.
That's right. Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn,
Hey.
Bruce McGowan, and our special guest, Steve Travers.
What the heck is going on around here?
Everybody grab it. Grab.
Oh, you're doing your Vince
Vince
Lombardi.
Lombardi, yeah.
I picked up.
I hate to say it, sign of the apocalypse in our industry. I'm at the 49ers, and when you go into the lobby of the 49ers, there's the 5 Super Bowl trophies encased in there. No lie, I'm not going to say his name because he's still in the business, and he's a nice guy, but we're shooting the trophies, and he said, I am not making this up.
Go ahead.
He says, hey, it says Lombardi on this trophy. I guess he was kind of a big deal, huh?
Oh no!
I almost lost. No.
How old was he? About
He's
like 22?
Well, he's a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, because as this
kid though, how could you
Who
not
the heck
know?
is this guy? Ruth?
Exactly.
Yeah, but he's a nerdy news guy.
Who was doing
Okay,
sports.
who was
Don't
over there
even tell me
doing
that.
some kind of off angle with the 49ers,
No,
and he just did not know.
Wow, how could you not know who Vince
That's
Lombardi?
like the movie Sandlot when he takes the ball and because he
Oh,
doesn't know.
yes.
Yeah, he goes,
George Herman.
Yeah.
George Herman?
Yeah, who is he? Who is this
this
guy?
That's the first hint where I said to myself, "Damn, I've been in this business too long."
The times they are changing.
Oh my God!
Or you got to do. I mean, you did your Vince Lombardi. You got to do your Bum Phillips. Hisn can
Oh,
be
yeah.
urine
Yeah.
at any time. Whatever. Okay. Second commercial break. We asked this trivia question: who was the first kicker to kick 40 field goals in a season?
Boy, you got me. I was going to say something like Adam Vinatieri, but I don't think it was.
No.
I would guess Phil Dawson.
No.
And my guess, I'll go with Morton Anderson just because.
Nope. Neil Racker.
Neil Racker.
Arizona Cardinals, 2005.
We figured it would be
A
a
little
team that
obscure, huh?
didn't score a lot of touchdowns. They had field goals instead.
Now, the next question you're going to get is going to be kind of interesting because after you hear the answer, if you don't know it, it'll make sense. Okay. So let's move on here. Alex Rodriguez, he ended his extended...
Drop the lawsuit.
His acrimonious fight with Major League Baseball.
Had no chance of winning that.
That's what they all said. And he's accepting the season-long suspension that marks the longest penalty in sports history related to performance-enhancing drugs. So what do you think the prognosis is for him and other PED athletes?
He's not coming back. I mean, he's 40 years old when he
I
comes
was going
back.
to say that. Yeah, I would think that he's...
Hey, I mean, he'd still probably be able to come back. But it's like Barry Bonds. Nobody wants to touch him. He's toxic.
Yeah.
You know, and the sad thing about Alex Rodriguez was he was actually a pretty good guy at one time. I remember talking to him when he was a young player. He was a good guy, but he got turned by the wrong people or whatever. Maybe he got too much success. I don't know. Have you had much dealings with him, Vernon? Because when I talked to him, I sat down, did a couple one-on-ones. He was great.
Alex Rodriguez?
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was all right.
But this is back when he was in Seattle, though.
Well, I dealt with him. I dealt with him pretty much toward the tail end of his run in Seattle, and then before he went to the Texas Rangers. Right. And he seemed okay. He never really said anything that I remember. Like, oh, great quote. No,
yeah.
It wasn't like that. But he was all right. I mean, just
relatively nice guy, though.
Yeah, but
apart from Barry Bonds, now Steve actually wrote a book about Barry Bonds. Interesting book. That Barry was going to let Steve in on a lot of stuff, and at the last minute he decided, no, I'm not going to have you write the book. So Steve wrote a book anyway, which actually was a much better book than the book that was written by the sports writer who collaborated with Barry, I thought. Again, maybe I'm prejudiced because I like Steve, but I thought your book was much better.
Yeah, isn't it a little dangerous for Barry to not want to collaborate? Because then you never know what a guy's going to write. Well, I mean, I don't know where I haven't read specifically what you wrote, but I want to stay on the good side.
I want Steve Travers to write the landmark book on Michael Sam. That's the book that I want to read.
The thing is, he's so young, though. You know, he's going to go through a lot of stuff. I mean, Bonds has been through so much. Right? What did you find out about Barry Bonds? I got to ask you, what did you find out about Barry Bonds that our listeners might not know about him that you found kind of fascinating?
Well, Bonds stood me up at our first meeting down in San Carlos.
What a shock!
Yeah. And
really?
I drove from Marin County to San Carlos, which is an hour. And then from there, the Giants had a night game, and from there I went to the stadium. And I get to the stadium, and there's Barry. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, well, this is typical. This is what I've always heard. And darned if Bonds didn't come up to me and was extremely apologetic. And he had a very good excuse, which was He was just ready to go to the interview when he gets a phone call from his daughter's school, and he hadn't paid her tuition.
Ooh.
And he goes down there to pay the tuition, and they said, no, you can't do it in person. You have to go home and do it on the internet.
What?
So that's what he said. So he had to go home and pay it on the internet. And by the time all this had happened, I had come and gone.
But he didn't have the decency to call you to let you know. Like,
Well, he had
hey,
other things on his mind, and plus he's Barry Bonds. You don't have to call back anybody.
I'm Barry Bonds, and you're not.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Well, anyway, I guess I bought it, and I kind of like the fact. Well, I like the fact that he was taking care of business for his daughter.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool, regular
Let's
guy.
put it this way: at least he gave you an excuse.
Yeah.
Right. He had the decency.
And he actually said he was sorry?
Yes, he did.
Wow.
There you go. But you know what? That would be.
Print that.
Yeah, if he could write that, that's better than an autograph.
Well,
I'm
Bruce,
sorry.
I don't know. Actually, this might be how Bruce and I met. But
It was about that time.
guys
Yeah.
were coming up to me and going, "How do you know Bonds? And why does Bonds talk to you?"
Yeah,
Why-
the writers were really.
You remember, I
yeah.
used to sit in his corner and watch
Yeah.
TV with them.
Yes, you did.
And I was brand new. I'd come from a magazine in Los Angeles, and I had no baggage in San Francisco at all in the media.
And that's why Barry liked you. I
That's
think.
why Barry liked me. And the other reason was I was an ex-pro player, and I was good friends with Charles Scott, who was his roommate at Arizona State. And
The big man.
Yeah.
That was a big, big plus for
Oh
Barry.
yeah.
I got a fun story about Charles, because Charles, actually, he was good friends with a kid I grew up with. So he was a few years younger. So unfortunately, back in those days, I used to buy those guys beer. Oops, I'm letting out
Charles
a secret.
Scott drinking beer?
Yeah.
Couldn't imagine.
So anyway, I'm attending a friend's wedding, and I hadn't seen Charles in many years. And there's Charles. He's like best man, or one of the groomsmen. I go, you look really familiar. And we made the connection. It had been like at least 20-something years, right? And it was a family event, so I had my son there. And I said, yeah, Charles, what have you been up to? I had no idea he'd even played ball. So he was explaining about how he had played, for Cleveland, Minnesota, blah, blah, blah. He unfortunately played for not very good teams at the time. But, being a pitcher, et cetera. And Charles is a big guy. I mean, he's probably 6'4", 240.
He looks like a movie star.
Yeah, good-looking guy, and all that. And my son was only about 10 years old, I think, at the time. And he was really getting into baseball playing, right? And so I said, hey, Christian, how would you like to have faced this guy? Because Christian, he kind of liked to pitch, but he really wasn't a pitcher. And he goes, and because I explained after, what Charles had done. And he goes, yeah, it'd be okay. I said, really? He goes, yeah, Dad, pitchers can't hit in the American League.
True.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. Smart kid.
All right, so now the Pistons, moving on to a little basketball here, the Pistons fired Maurice Cheeks before the All-Star break.
After only, 50 games or something?
Something like that.
I think he's a good coach.
21 and 29.
Yeah.
And was it Joe Dumars who showed up? But he's been going through coaches like Kleenex.
It's ridiculous.
My question is, what does that do to the team with such inconsistency and the lack of confidence in your choices?
Well, they went out and won the next game.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Look at the Warriors as an example. The Warriors ran through coaches like they were, potato chips for 10 years. Just you turn around and who is this guy? Brian Winters. Who is this guy? Dave Cowens. Who is this guy? Bill Musselman. Every other, Mike Montgomery.
Dave Cowens.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys coming through, and then they
PJ
finally,
Carlesimo.
PJ Carlesimo, they finally get a hold of, they get the ridiculous owner, whose name doesn't need to be mentioned, out of there, and they've got some continuities. I think the problem is the front office, Detroit's front office, not the coach. I'm always behind the coach unless he's a jerk, because I think the coaches, they get dealt a hand, and if the hand's not very good, they get blamed. It's not right.
You got to figure that the players, they know how to play. I mean, obviously, there's going to be with the time clock specifically, there's going to be specific strategies. But other than that, these guys have been practicing. I mean, even without a coach, come on, a lot of these guys are going to be.
Well, you're not going to get a Phil Jackson to come along very often. I mean, there are guys that are special, but how many guys are like that?
There's a few special guys,
Yeah.
and really, what I've seen with Pete Carroll in Seattle and Harbaugh really leads me to believe more so than ever the coach. It's the coach.
Yeah.
You have to have a coach.
You have to have a good coach. Yeah.
Well, a lot of times it's just going to be the motivation, the external factors, because the guys are going to be talented enough. That's why they're there,
Mm-hmm.
And they're shaking butt like me. You were a pitcher. But the thing is, while you're pitching, you can't watch yourself pitch. So you have an outside person who's an expert, kind of knowing and saying, "Hey, you're dropping your shoulder, you're gripping too tight, or whatever," right?
Yeah, well, I always found the guy who had the best effect on my pitching was my catcher. He was the guy who could read me and understood me better. And if I had a good relationship with a catcher, that was a huge plus.
Hey, I got to ask Steve.
That's why you see a lot of catchers as managers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good
They
guy.
control the game.
Bob Melvin.
Yeah, you had. We were talking about the book you wrote earlier. John Wayne to me is one of the most fascinating characters because he was not only a larger-than-life figure, but he was politically very, very strong in his beliefs. Where did those beliefs come from? I mean, did he grow up in a very strong, politically oriented family?
Well,
or did he
I'll
just
tell you, Pilgrim.
Yeah, I mean, where did that come from, Steve? Because you must have done some research into this guy. I'm curious.
Well, Wayne's family comes from a very pro-union family that really saw the building of the West as a very patriotic thing, and it was infused in Wayne that the Cowboys were this.
When you say union, you mean versus Confederate? Not
I
when
mean
you said union, I was thinking about the AFL-CIO.
No.
That doesn't sound like it at all.
I mean the Union Army.
Yeah.
And Lincoln's holding the Union together. And Wayne's family was very well read, and they had passed this on to. And so when Wayne was a kid, he's reading de Tocqueville's Democracy in America and Mark Twain, and a lot of these classics. And so his move to the West. He literally lived in the Old West. He moves to Mojave in 1913, and this is Mojave Desert is in those days. It's like living in the Old West. It's almost the same
What they
thing.
do before air conditioning? But go ahead.
Well, back that was before they were flying test pilots over the skies some years later. But that's where it comes from.
Interesting. Yeah, he's a fascinating guy. I mean, I just think he's one of the more fascinating individuals of that time.
Well, there's no question.
Yeah.
As a liberal, that's very nice of you to say.
No, I mean, I always liked John Wayne as an actor. I didn't agree with his politics, but I always found it interesting. He was very passionate.
People loved John Wayne personally,
Yeah.
and he had a lot of friends who were not conservative.
That's right.
And he was wonderfully received by the likes of Jane Fonda and Barbara Streisand at the 1969 Academy Awards when he finally won for True Grit.
Yeah.
They were very happy for him.
Yeah. Well, he should have won it before, but it's kind of like Paul Newman should have won it years before and didn't get it to win The Color of Money.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I guess it's the type of how you're typecast.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move to our third and final commercial break trivia question. Again, the theme is NFL records. Which quarterback was the first in NFL history to be sacked 75 times in a season?
Ouch.
I mean, what is that? That's 4.5 sacks per
Wow. Not to mention the number of times you get hit before.
I can think of at least two, but
okay, save it for the.
I am going to save it, but both of the guys right off the top of my head, I'm thinking are 14-game seasons. I'm thinking it's got to be a 16-game.
Yeah, it's a 16-game.
It's 16 game. Okay.
Okay, so email Edward at SportsEcon101. The answer to this question: which quarterback was the first in NFL history to be sacked 75 times in a season? Talk about concussions. I can imagine how many he had. Don't touch that dial. SportsEcon101 will be right back with some closing comments.
Oh, glad I didn't play football.
And Craig Morton got sacked a lot, didn't he?
Well, my first. I would have said Fran Tarkenton or Archie Manning. But
those guys played back in the 70s.
I don't know in the 80s
or so.
I should have given it.
78 was when they
somebody with
expanded.
the Houston Texans.
Was it?
That's a good guess.
Am I right?
You are right.
Recently, huh?
That was recent. Yeah.
David Carr?
Probably Carr.
Head job? No.
Not sure.
No,
One of those two.
He's too many pick sixes. He didn't get sacked enough because he kept throwing the pick six.
Take a
sack.
That's the worst thing in the world to throw a pick six. Throw it away.
Oh,
Take the sack.
Half the time you're looking at it on your back.
Yeah, that's awful. You look up and the guy's running bad.
While the guy who just tackled you is just in your face.
We asked Terrell Pryor why he does this, why he throws these pick sixes, why he takes these chances, and he says, "Hey, and everybody watching, they're just saying, just throw it away, but I just have to believe that I can make that
Yeah.
play.
Because
I
Terrell
just-
Pryor will do it for the same reason that a guy with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball
Yeah, try to
thinks you can
challenge
get
a guy.
away. Because
Yeah.
ever since you're 12 years old, you've done it with, you've just simply been so physically superior that you can get away with it, and you finally reach that level where the other guys are just
That's
as
a very
good.
good point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you know what? Let's cover that. Because the other two things we can. Actually, I'll cover one quick thing.
I can't believe we went through an hour with one innocuous mention of Michael Sam. I mean, that is the number one trending thing
That's true.
everybody's talking about. I
What
mean,
do you
that's
know?
lamb. I mean, that's
Trending
first openly gay.
is trending.
I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah,
I-
I mean, it's going to be a big deal for the media, but from the
Have
players'
you
standpoint, I
seen
don't
how
think the
far
players
his
are gonna-
stock has plummeted?
Yeah, no.
Oh my
Has
God!
it really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it has.
he was projected to go
In the fifth or fourth or fifth.
fourth round, maybe,
that'll
maybe
be a
early
big
fourth
deal.
round, and he's dropped like 60 spots.
Now,
Get out of
is-
here.
is
Because
it-
nobody wants to touch him.
Yeah.
I mean, this is good radio. Nobody wants to touch him because nobody wants the circus.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
God.
think
Nobody wants to deal with the circus.
See, I wonder if how much of it is that, how much of it is the other players just kind of saying, I don't want to play with a guy like
I don't
that,
think so much the players.
or is there internally guys going, oh, if he's gay, he's probably like they used to say about like
The
David
players,
Robinson. He's
the
not tough
play,
enough 'cause
it's
he's
never
nice.
the
But I
players.
tell- but Edward, I mean, it's on film. The guy is a monster.
Yeah,
the
he's
guy,
great.
the
Yeah,
guy.
Bill Belichick
I mean, the
said
guy-
he had no problem.
I mean, the,
Well, then someone will get him and
Yeah.
turn him into an all. See,
Yeah.
that would have been Al Davis.
I mean, he is a
That's
one-dimensional
Davis.
pass
Davis.
rushing specialist.
Al Davis
tell you
would
what,
have
so
said,
let's
I mean,
we'll
I did
let's
not
mention-
realize that. That's what you're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I saw something in the paper about that today.
I
That's
didn't realize
interesting.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have just a minute and 30 seconds, so we'll quickly answer the trivia question, then have one,
Yeah, that's
three
good.
about.
Good point.
Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn,
sup?
Bruce McGowan,
Yes.
and Steve Travers, our special guest. When we cut to the third commercial break, we asked this trivia question again, and the theme is NFL records. Which quarterback was the first in NFL history to be sacked 75 times? And Steve, you guessed the right team, which was?
The Houston Texans.
That is correct. And who was the quarterback? 2002 is what?
David Carr.
David Carr.
Yeah.
Very good.
David Carr.
Now,
Fresno State.
Yeah.
Vern, you wanted to bring up?
Well, I mean, we've gotten through the whole show with one mention of Michael Sam. He is the linebacker out of Missouri who's projected to go, mid-round, fourth round. He's a one-dimensional pass rushing monster,
Except.
sure to be drafted. And then he came out as openly gay, and which is just unprecedented. Nobody's ever done that, and now his stock has just plummeted because the general managers, who, by the way, do not want to be identified,
Of course.
have said that we don't want to touch him. We don't want the media circus. We don't want to upset our players who have a problem.
It's not
In the
controversy.
shower, whatever, playing with this guy.
Yeah.
Now he came out at the beginning of the season to his teammates at Missouri. They didn't have a problem with it.
I don't think
And
young
that-
players today have a problem with
I
it
don't,
as
think
much.
that, I don't think it's the players.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the integration of
Yeah.
Alabama football. It wasn't the players; it was reactionary alumni.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
The
it's
older
not-
guys.
But
it's not like
Steve,
these guys are doing anything
you've been in clubhouses. You know how off color those comments are. All the jokes, particularly, unfortunately, toward
gay.
gay people. Yeah.
Well,
And
yeah, but people. There's a lot of self-deprecation in those clubhouses, and there's a lot of stuff that you think the average person would hear and go, "Oh my God!" And it's just the way they talk.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a modern day Jackie Robinson, only in the fact that he's the first, and you have to look at it. If he can play, if he can help your team win, then you got to have him on the
Gotta
team.
have
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be a circus. If it's NFL draft day and he's obviously being passed over by players not as good, and they're looking at, someone will have a camera on
We're gonna have to-
Sam's.
Oh yeah.
Guys, we'll cut into this again.
It'll be a
next
whole
week.
nother
A
show.
whole nother show on
Yeah.
this. Okay, quickly, our thoughts for the day. Former Michigan State football coach Duff Doherty said, I could have been a Rhodes Scholar except for my grades. I was like, I could have been a contender. And just give me 25 guys on the last year of their contracts. I'll win a pennant every year. Sparky Anderson said that. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
Good night. We'll talk about integrating football, Duffy Doors.
Yeah.